My name is Gabriella, and at 27, I never imagined raising my son Noah alone. 7 years ago, my boyfriend disappeared when I told him I was pregnant, and my parents chose their reputation over their daughter. They kicked me out with nothing but a suitcase and shame. Now I own a thriving design business and our beautiful home. Last month, my parents suddenly wanted back into our lives, but when they saw what we built without them, their faces said everything. If you're watching this from a place where family abandoned you too, let me know in the comments below. Give this video a like if you believe second chances should be earned, not given. Let's get into my story. I was always the daughter with promise. My admission to Westlake University on a partial art scholarship made my immigrant grandparents proud, even if my father Richard viewed art as a hobby rather than a career. Dad was a successful orthopedic surgeon who worked 60-hour weeks and expected nothing less than excellence from his children. My mother Diana, a corporate attorney, reinforced these expectations with weekly progress reports on our academics and extracurriculars. Our family lived in a sprawling colonial home in a suburb where appearance mattered above all else. Sunday dinners were mandatory even during midterms and included lengthy discussions about my younger sister Sophia's debate team victories or my father's latest surgical innovation. When I mentioned my design projects, conversations quickly shifted to more substantial topics. Despite this, I maintained a 3.9 GPA while working 20 hours weekly at the campus gallery. My portfolio was growing, and Professor Martinez had recommended me for a summer internship at Blackwell Design, a stepping stone that could launch my career after graduation. I kept this opportunity secret from my parents, knowing they expected me to follow my mother's path to law school. Sophia was my confidant, sneaking into my room at night to see my latest designs. Only 14, she already showed signs of the same creative spirit, though she hid her poetry notebooks beneath calculus textbooks. When you become famous, she would whisper, "Take me with you." I met Jackson during my junior year exhibition. Tall, with carefully tousled dark hair and a family name connected to banking, he spoke confidently about negative space and color theory. He asked thoughtful questions about my work, and for the first time I felt truly seen as an artist. Our relationship moved quickly. Within 2 months, Jackson was driving me home for those mandatory Sunday dinners. My parents approved immediately, my father clapping Jackson's shoulder while discussing investment strategies. "Finally, someone who can talk sense into our dreamer," he joked, while I smiled tightly. The first warning signs appeared gradually. Jackson would check my phone while I showered question mail names on group project emails and suggest I wear different outfits to class. "That shirt draws too much attention," he would say. He began planning our future together, speaking of design as my before-children hobby. I rationalized his behavior as protective rather than controlling. My roommate Zoe tried warning me after Jackson caused a scene when a classmate hugged me at a gallery opening, but I defended him. In truth, I was afraid of disappointing everyone if this relationship, which my parents finally approved of, failed. Family dinners grew increasingly tense as my senior year progressed. My mother would pointedly mention her friend's daughter, who had just made partner at her law firm, while my father would ask Jackson about his plans for graduate school, completely ignoring my presence. During these conversations, Sophia would squeeze my hand under the table, our secret support system. My grades began slipping as I juggled coursework, my relationship with Jackson, family expectations, and preparation for my internship interview. When Professor Martinez noticed my exhaustion, she gently suggested I might be stretching myself too thin. "Remember, Gabriella, your art requires your authentic voice. I worry you're losing it." That conversation haunted me as I drove to Jackson's apartment that evening. He had been increasingly distant, canceling plans last minute and responding to texts hours later. I had planned a special dinner to reconnect, but when I arrived, he seemed annoyed by my presence. We argued about trivial things, made up with desperate intensity, and fell into an uneasy sleep. I didn't know then that this night would change everything. 6 weeks later, I sat on the cold tile floor of the university's third-floor bathroom, staring at two pink lines on a plastic stick. My period, always punctual, was 2 weeks late. I had blamed stress, extra shifts at the gallery, and poor eating habits. The reality was now inescapable. I spent 45 minutes in that stall, cycling through denial, panic, and finally a strange calm. I had always wanted children someday, just not while still figuring out my own life. Walking back to my apartment, I rehearsed how to tell Jackson. We had never seriously discussed children, though he occasionally mentioned wanting sons someday with the right foundation. When I told him that evening, Jackson's face cycled through expressions, confusion, shock, and finally anger. "You did this on purpose," he accused, pacing his apartment. "To lock me down before graduation." "That's ridiculous," I countered, tears streaming down my face. "This was an accident." "There are ways to fix accidents," he said coldly. "I'm not ready for this. We're not ready. Either take care of it or we're done." I left his apartment that night, with my decision already forming. Despite my terror, despite knowing what it would cost me, I couldn't terminate this pregnancy. This wasn't about religion or politics. Something within me simply knew I would keep this baby. For almost 3 months, I hid my condition from my family. Morning sickness became a stomach bug that won't quit. Exhaustion was final project stress. I wore loose clothing and avoided home visits. Jackson alternated between ignoring me completely and sending accusatory late-night texts demanding to know if I had fixed our problem yet. The truth emerged during a Sunday dinner in April. The smell of my mother's pot roast, usually a favorite, sent me rushing to the bathroom. When I returned, pale and shaking, my mother's eyes narrowed with suspicion. "You're pregnant," she stated flatly. "Not a question, but an accusation." The table fell silent. My father's fork clattered against his plate. "Yes," I admitted suddenly, finding strength in the simple truth. Almost 14 weeks. What followed was chaos. My mother burst into tears, dramatic sobs about reputation and failure. My father sat in stony silence, before finally speaking in his surgeon's voice, detached and clinical. "And what do you plan to do about this situation?" "I'm keeping my baby," I said quietly. "Not in this house, you're not," he replied. Within days, an emergency family meeting was called. Aunts, uncles, even my grandparents were gathered to discuss my situation. Some suggested rushed marriage, others adoption. My father remained resolute. If I insisted on keeping the baby, I would do so elsewhere. My mother vacillated between tearful pleas to think of your future and cold calculations of how this would affect Sophia's college applications in 3 years. Meanwhile, Jackson had been busy spreading his version of events across campus. According to him, I had trapped him, refused reasonable solutions, and was now trying to destroy his future. Friends stopped returning my texts. Group projects became exercises in isolation. My academic advisor suggested a leave of absence after I fell asleep during a crucial presentation. "Your situation, Island. Difficult," she said carefully. "Perhaps resuming your studies after would be wiser." I left her office knowing after might never come. Through it all, Sophia remained my only ally. She would sneak health food into my room, having researched prenatal nutrition online. "They'll come around," she promised, though her voice lacked conviction. "Once they see the baby, they'll fall in love, just like in movies." The final confrontation came at 18 weeks pregnant. My mother discovered prenatal vitamins in my bathroom. That night, my parents presented a unified ultimatum: give the baby for adoption and resume my education or leave their home. You're throwing away everything we've sacrificed for, my father said. One mistake is understandable. Ruining your life over it is unforgivable. This baby isn't a mistake, I replied, hand protectively covering my small bump. Then you've made your choice, he said, walking away. You have until the end of the week. That night, while the house slept, I packed everything I could fit into my used Honda Civic, closed my laptop art supplies, and the small jewelry box containing my grandmother's necklace. I wrote a letter to my parents, trying to explain my decision while leaving the door open for reconciliation. To Sophia, I left a separate note with my email address, telling her I would always be her sister. Before dawn, I backed out of the driveway of my childhood home, unsure when or if I would ever return. Driving away from the only home I'd ever known felt surreal. Street lights illuminated empty suburban roads as the sky lightened to pale blue. I had $820 in my checking account, half a tank of gas, and no destination. My first stop was a roadside diner for breakfast and to gather my thoughts. The reality of my situation settled in as I reviewed my options over cooling eggs and toast. I couldn't return to campus housing, having already received an email about conduct violations after Jackson spoke with the housing director. Most of my friends lived in sorority houses or shared apartments without space for a pregnant roommate. I hadn't qualified for enough financial aid to cover off-campus housing, having always relied on living at home. I used the diner's Wi-Fi to search for affordable motels, finding one 30 miles away that offered weekly rates. For 7 days, that became my temporary address while I applied for jobs and housing. Each morning, I'd put on my most professional non-maternity clothes and visit apartment complexes only to be rejected due to my lack of employment and visible pregnancy. We need proof of income 3 times the rent amount, each property manager would explain, eyes flickering to my midsection, and a cosigner. By day 6, with funds dwindling and desperation growing, I expanded my job search beyond design-related positions. At Lucky's Diner, on the outskirts of town, I met Marge, a 60-something manager with faded tattoos and keen eyes. "When are you due?" she asked bluntly during my impromptu interview. "September," I answered honestly. "But I can work until then, and I'm a fast learner." Marge studied me, noting my worn but clean clothes and the determination I fought to project. My daughter was 16 when she had my grandson. Nobody would give her a chance either. She handed me an apron. "Breakfast shift starts at 5:30 tomorrow. Don't be late." With my first paycheck as collateral, I secured a basement studio apartment in a neighborhood my parents would have never visited. The walls were water-stained, the appliances ancient, but it was mine. That night I slept on a second-hand air mattress beneath a window with a broken lock, my desk chair propped against the door. I tried calling my parents the next day, hoping the reality of my departure might have softened their stance. The call went straight to voicemail. My text messages showed as delivered, but remained unanswered. When I tried from the diner's phone, my father answered, listened, to me, identify myself, and hung up. Jackson's final communication came via text. "My parents' lawyer will contact you about signing away rights. I want to be completely left out of this. Don't contact me again." I blocked his number that night crying, until my pregnant body, exhausted from an 8-hour shift on swollen feet, finally surrendered to sleep. A week into my tenancy, I met Aria, my upstairs neighbor. She noticed me struggling with grocery bags and offered help. With her toddler balanced on one hip, She carried my milk and oranges up the uneven steps. "I'm Gabriella," I said, unlocking my door. "Aria. And this is Lily. We're in 4B. She glanced around my nearly empty apartment. "First baby." I nodded, suddenly fighting tears. "Come up for dinner tomorrow, 6 o'clock. Nothing fancy, but it's better than eating alone." Arya became my first real friend in this new life. A single mother herself at 23, she showed me how to apply for prenatal assistance, where to find the cheapest diapers, and which pediatricians accepted Medicaid. Our apartments became interconnected spaces of mutual support. Working at Lucky's presented physical challenges I hadn't anticipated. Morning sickness lingered into my second trimester, making breakfast shift aromas torturous. My feet swelled in non-slip shoes, and carrying heavy trays strained my back. Yet regulars began requesting my section, leaving extra tips with mumbled encouragements. My carefully budgeted finances remained precarious. Each month required mathematical gymnastics, rent, utilities, groceries, bus fare, and prenatal vitamins competed for limited dollars. I began keeping the diner's unlimited crackers in my apron pocket to supplement meals at home. Westlake University surprisingly offered academic flexibility I hadn't expected. My department chair, upon learning of my situation, arranged for remote completion of 2 essential courses. "Your talent shouldn't be wasted," she wrote. "We can work with your circumstances." At 26 weeks pregnant, I emailed an ultrasound picture to my parents with a simple message: "Your grandson, due September 10th. The email didn't bounce back, but received no response. Lucky's staff threw me a surprise baby shower during a slow Tuesday afternoon. Marge had collected donations, a second-hand crib, tiny clothes diapers, and a car seat with updated safety ratings. The dishwasher's wife had knitted a blue blanket. I cried openly, overwhelmed by kindness from people who barely knew me. As my due date approached, nightmares plagued my sleep. I dreamed of labor rooms where I screamed alone of babies I couldn't soothe, of eviction notices while holding a hungry infant. Arya would make herbal tea when she heard me pacing at 3 a.m. "The fear is normal," she assured me, "but you're stronger than you think." My water broke during the Thursday lunch rush at Lucky's. I was refilling water glasses when liquid warmth trickled down my legs, puddling on the linoleum floor. For a moment I stood frozen between tables 4 and 5, a pitcher clutched in white-knuckled hands. Gabriella Mrs. Patterson, a regular, touched my arm. "Honey, I think it's time." Marge called Arya while helping me to the back office. "I'll be right there," Arya promised, arranging emergency childcare for Lily. Contractions began in earnest during the chaotic drive to County Hospital. Arya ran red lights, coaching me through breathing techniques while I clutched the dashboard. "Remember," she said, "at each stoplight, every contraction brings you closer to meeting your baby." Labor lasted 20 hours. Without family or partner, I relied on rotating nurses, and Arya, who stayed until exhaustion, forced her home to Lily. When complications arose, my blood pressure dropping dangerously low, a kind nurse held my hand through 2 hours of pushing. Noah James was born at 4:17 a.m., weighing 7 pounds 3 ounces. When the doctor placed him on my chest, his warm weight and searching eyes instantly redefined my world. "Hello," I whispered to his wrinkled face. "We made it." The hospital social worker visited before discharge, providing information about WIC benefits, childcare assistance, and support groups for single mothers. She frowned at my emergency contact form, which listed only Arya and Marge. "No family support?" she asked gently. "We're on our own," I answered, watching Noah sleep in the clear hospital bassinet. Returning to my basement apartment with a newborn felt like stepping into another dimension. The space barely adequate for one now needed to accommodate all of Noah's necessities. The ancient refrigerator hummed loudly, startling him awake during precious moments of sleep. Those first weeks passed in a blur of feeding struggles, diaper changes, and bone-deep exhaustion. Breastfeeding proved painful and difficult. Noah would latch, then scream, then refuse to try again. The lactation consultant's home visit, covered by Medicaid, saved our nursing relationship and possibly my sanity. Sleep deprivation became my constant companion. Noah woke hourly, some nights, his tiny body struggling with gas pains or simple adjustment to the world. I would pace our small living space, bouncing him gently while fighting back tears of frustration and loneliness. The walls between empty and breaking completely seemed paper thin during those days. I wrote in my journal during rare, quiet moments. Today I understood why some mothers walk away, and why I never could. Postpartum depression settled over me like a heavy fog. Some mornings, accomplishing nothing beyond feeding Noah felt like climbing mountains. I would stare at my phone finger hovering over my parents' contact information before setting it aside. Their silence had become its own answer. Returning to work presented logistical nightmares. Childcare costs exceeded my waitressing income, creating an impossible equation. Marge offered an unprecedented solution, a portable crib installed in the supply office. Against health code, she admitted, but we'll make it work. Back entrance only, and he stays in the office. Noah spent his early months amid the rhythms of diner life. Cooks would check on him during cigarette breaks, dishwashers would sing Spanish lullabies, and Marge would hold him between rush periods. Customers who discovered our arrangement left extra tips with whispered encouragements. Our first Christmas arrived with bitter cold and heating bills I couldn't fully pay. I created decorations from colored paper and hung them from our low ceiling. Noah, now 3 months old, seemed fascinated by the shadows they cast. I wrapped small gifts from the dollar store, a teething ring, colorful socks, a board book about animals. When midnight struck, I whispered promises into his downy hair. Someday things will be easier. January brought financial crisis when Noah developed a respiratory infection. The choice between medicine and rent became brutally clear, and I chose medicine. My landlord provided a week's extension after I explained, his gruff voice softening slightly when Noah coughed over the phone call. The pediatric emergency room became our home for 36 sleepless hours when Noah's fever wouldn't break. I sat under harsh fluorescent lights, still wearing my waitress uniform, while doctors administered tests and treatments. A night nurse named Teresa brought me sandwiches from the cafeteria and coffee that I couldn't afford from the vending machine. My sister was like you, Teresa explained during a quiet moment. Let me connect you with some programs. Before our discharge, she provided applications for heating assistance, supplemental food programs, and a medical debt forgiveness program. As Noah grew, so did my determination. During his naps, I began accepting small freelance design projects, building a portfolio between diaper changes and feedings. My laptop, balanced on the kitchen counter while I rocked Noah's bouncer with my foot, became my link to the career I still dreamed about. Each milestone became bittersweet celebrations. First smile, first laugh, first tooth, first tentative crawl across our worn carpet. I documented everything in a memory box, storing photos and notes about each achievement. For someday, I told myself, though the possibility of reconciliation grew dimmer with each passing month. When Noah turned 2, he asked his first question about family during bath time. "Where my grandma?" he inquired, having heard Lily mention visiting her grandmother that weekend. The question stung, but I had prepared for it. Some families are big with grandmas and grandpas and lots of cousins, I explained, keeping my voice steady. Our family is small but very special. Just you and Mommy, who love each other very much. This answer satisfied him temporarily, but as he approached preschool age, the questions became more frequent and difficult to navigate. Each inquiry revealed the gaps in our family structure that I couldn't fill alone. Aria proved invaluable during this period. Our childcare exchange system allowed me to accept evening design clients while she worked days at the medical office where she'd found reception work. Noah and Lily became inseparable friends, creating their own sibling-like bond that eased some of my guilt about his isolation from extended family. By Noah's third birthday, our circumstances had begun shifting. My remote coursework through Westlake was completed with a hard-won degree in graphic design. The diploma arrived in a cardboard tube, which Noah immediately claimed as a trumpet. We celebrated with cupcakes from the grocery store bakery and a small party at the local park with Aria, Lily, and friends from the diner. My freelance design business, built in stolen moments between waitressing shifts, had grown enough to require organization. I created a website featuring projects completed for local businesses, often at deeply discounted rates to build my portfolio. These early clients willing to take a chance on an unknown designer became the foundation of my professional network. The turning point came unexpectedly through social media. A logo I designed for a local coffee shop was shared by a visiting marketing executive who contacted me about freelance work for their agency. The project paid more than a month of waitressing, allowing me to reduce my diner hours and focus on building my client base. Noah started preschool 3 mornings weekly at a sliding-scale community center. His first day, he clung to my legs, big tears rolling down his cheeks as he begged not to be left. The separation anxiety felt like physical pain for both of us. I sat in my car for 20 minutes after drop-off, fighting the urge to rescue him. When I returned 3 hours later, he was painting at an easel, happily chattering with a boy in a dinosaur shirt. He did great after the first 30 minutes, his teacher assured me. Creative little guy. As my business grew, we moved from our basement apartment to a 1-bedroom unit in a safer neighborhood. Noah got the bedroom with space for a proper toddler bed and toys. I converted half the living room into my workspace with a desk from a second-hand office supply store. The parent group at Noah's preschool introduced me to other single parents navigating similar challenges. We formed a support network sharing childcare during sick days, exchanging outgrown clothes, and providing emotional support during difficult parenting moments. For the first time since Noah's birth, I felt part of a community rather than isolated. My design work received unexpected exposure when a restaurant rebrand I completed was featured on a popular food blog. The post went viral within our city's business community, bringing inquiries from established companies willing to pay professional rates. I raised my prices, created proper contracts, and opened a business banking account. I still remember the day my income officially exceeded my expenses for 3 consecutive months. Noah and I celebrated with a dinner at a restaurant with cloth napkins, our first such luxury. "We eating fancy," he declared loudly, making nearby diners smile. As Noah approached kindergarten age, his questions about family became more complex. "Why Lily has a grandpa, but I don't?" he asked one evening during bath time. "Am I in trouble with them?" These conversations required careful navigation. I never wanted to burden him with adult realities, yet dishonesty would build unhealthy foundations. "Your grandparents made choices that have nothing to do with you," I explained. "Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes they don't know how to fix, but you are perfect exactly as you are." Therapy became essential during this period. A sliding scale counseling center helped me address unresolved feelings of abandonment and develop strategies for Noah's questions. My therapist, Dr. Winters, helped me recognize how my parents' rejection had shaped my parenting decisions, sometimes in ways that weren't healthy. "You're overcompensating," she noted gently during one session. "Trying to be mother, father, grandparents, and extended family all at once. It's not sustainable." This insight led to intentional community building. We created new holiday traditions, with our chosen family Thanksgiving potlucks, with other single-parent families, Christmas cookie exchanges, and birthday celebrations that filled our small apartment with noise and laughter. My business continued growing largely through word-of-mouth referrals. A female creative director at a prominent agency took interest in my work, becoming both client and mentor. Angela herself, a mother of three, provided guidance on pricing, client, relationships, and balancing parenting with creative work. "You've got raw talent," she told me over coffee during our first meeting. "But more importantly, you've got hustle. That's rarer than you think." With Angela's referrals and growing confidence, I expanded from individual projects to ongoing retainer relationships with several businesses. The consistent income allowed me to hire a virtual assistant for 20 hours weekly, handling administrative tasks while I focused on creative work. Noah's artistic abilities emerged strongly during kindergarten. His teacher requested a conference not because of problems, but to show me his advanced drawing skills. "He has exceptional spatial awareness and color understanding for his age," she explained, showing me his detailed dinosaur drawings. "I'd recommend nurturing this talent." This conversation prompted a visit to the Children's Art Center for weekend classes. Watching Noah bent over his paper tongue, poking from the corner of his mouth in concentration, I recognized myself at his age. The creative spirit that my parents had dismissed as impractical had found new life in my son. By Noah's 6th birthday, my business had grown enough to require dedicated space. I leased a small office in a converted industrial building, decorating with furniture found at estate sales and refinished during weekend projects. The day I hung my company logo on the door felt surreal, a milestone I once thought impossible as a single mother starting with nothing. That same month, I qualified for an auto loan, replacing our unreliable used car with a newer model featuring working air conditioning and current safety features. Noah dubbed it our spaceship because of its silver color and smooth ride compared to our old vehicle. Financial stability allowed for previously unimaginable planning, an emergency fund, a savings account for Noah's education, and eventually a down payment fund for a home of our own. Each deposit, no matter how small, represented security that once seemed completely out of reach. When Noah turned 7, we moved into a beautiful 2-bedroom condo in a building with a doorman and secure parking. Located in a highly rated school district, the purchase represented the culmination of years of careful financial management and business growth. The day we received the keys, Noah ran from room to room, marveling at the space. "Is this all ours forever?" he asked, eyes wide. "Yes," I promised. "This is our home." Our new neighborhood brought adjustment challenges for Noah. The children at his new school came from primarily 2-parent affluent families. His second-hand clothes and single-parent household initially marked him as different. The first parent-teacher conference revealed he had been quiet in class, reluctant to share during family discussions. We addressed these challenges together, finding balance between honesty about our different family structure and pride in our journey. Noah gradually found his place, particularly after his art was displayed in the school showcase. His teachers recognized and nurtured his creative abilities, providing the academic encouragement I had lacked as a child. Our condo slowly transformed into a true home walls filled with Noah's artwork and furniture, chosen for comfort rather than necessity. For the first time, I created a space reflecting our personalities rather than merely meeting basic needs. My home office featured proper design equipment, while Noah's room contained the dinosaur-themed furniture he had longingly eyed in store windows. 7 years after leaving my parents' home pregnant and alone, I had built a life that exceeded my desperate hopes during those early days. My design studio now employed 3 people besides myself, serving clients across the country. Noah was thriving academically, and socially his early hardships invisible to those who hadn't witnessed our journey. This carefully constructed piece was interrupted by an unexpected email from my sister Sophia. After years of secret communication, always careful to protect her from our parents' disapproval, she wrote with news that would reopen doors I had long considered permanently closed. The email from Sophia arrived on an ordinary Tuesday evening. Noah was completing homework at the kitchen table while I prepared dinner, my phone pinging with the notification. The subject line alone made my hands tremble. Mom and Dad want to talk. Sophia explained that our grandfather had suffered a serious heart attack, prompting family reflection. Mom's been crying a lot, she wrote. Dad keeps looking at your graduation photo. They want to contact you, but they're afraid you'll reject them like they rejected you. I think they finally understand what they did. My physical reaction surprised me, lightheadedness racing, heart nausea rising in my throat. 7 years of silence, and now they wanted to talk because mortality had reminded them of familial bonds. I set my phone down, breathing deeply, until the kitchen stopped spinning. You okay, Mom? Noah asked, looking up from his math worksheet. Just fine, buddy, I assured him. Finish those last 2 problems before dinner. My finger hovered over the delete button that evening after Noah was asleep. Part of me wanted to erase this disruption to our hard-won stability. Another part, the wounded daughter I thought I'd outgrown, craved the acknowledgement this contact represented. I saved the email, promising myself time to consider my response. During my next therapy session, Dr. Winters helped me process my conflicted feelings. What outcome would feel healing to you, she asked. Setting aside what they want or need, what would serve your well-being and Noah's? This question guided my eventual response to Sophia. I provided my email address for our parents, but established clear boundaries any relationship would develop, slowly centered around Noah's emotional safety rather than their desire for instant forgiveness. 2 days later, an email arrived from my mother's account. The formal greeting and careful language reflected the emotional distance between us. Dear Gabriella, we hope this message finds you well. We would very much like to speak with you when you feel comfortable doing so. With care, Diana and Richard. No acknowledgement of abandonment. No mention of Noah. No apology. I waited 3 days before replying with my phone number and available times to call. The ball remained in their court, a reversal of power dynamics that felt significant after years of their silence. My mother called first, her voice tentative and older than I remembered. After awkward exchanges about weather and health, silence stretched between us. Sophia says you have a design business now, she finally offered. Yes, Stephen's Design Studio. We work with clients nationwide. That's wonderful. Your father and I are very impressed. The conversation continued in this vein, superficial and stilted. When she asked about Noah, emotion crept into her voice. We would like to meet our grandson, if that's something you would consider. He's not a photo opportunity, I responded sharper than intended. He's a person who has lived his entire life without grandparents. That would be a significant introduction. Of course, she backpedaled. We understand completely. My father joined subsequent calls, his surgeon's precision evident in carefully chosen words. Neither explicitly apologized for abandoning me during pregnancy, though my mother occasionally made tearful references to regrettable decisions and wishing things had been different. Their reaction to learning about my business success revealed volumes. "You own the company?" my father asked, surprise evident. "With employees and everything?" "Yes. We have 4 full-time staff now, plus contractors." "I had no idea you were so established," he responded, the unspoken assumption being that I'd struggled perpetually as punishment for my choices. After weeks of increasingly longer phone conversations, they requested meeting Noah. This required careful consideration and preparation. I consulted Noah's therapist about the healthiest approach, wanting to protect him from potential disappointment while allowing potential relationships to form. "What do you think about meeting your grandparents?" I asked Noah during our special Saturday morning pancake breakfast. "They live a few hours away and would like to meet you." He considered this with characteristic thoughtfulness. "Are they nice?" "They can be," I answered honestly. "They made mistakes in the past, but they want to be better now." "Do they like dinosaurs?" he asked, practical as always. "I'm not sure. You could ask them." We arranged a meeting at a neutral location, a park with a playground where Noah could retreat to if the interaction became overwhelming. I prepared him with basic information, emphasizing that he could leave the conversation any time he felt uncomfortable. Sophia arrived first, running to embrace me, with tears streaming down her face. At 21, she had grown into a poised young woman pursuing environmental law. "They're nervous," she whispered. "Dad changed his tie 3 times." Watching my parents approach across the park, I was struck by how they had aged. My father's hair had grayed completely, his confident stride now measured and careful. My mother appeared smaller somehow, her designer clothing hanging on a thinner frame. Noah pressed against my leg, suddenly shy, despite weeks of curious questions about these strangers called grandparents. The initial greeting was awkward handshakes and tentative smiles, everyone hyper-aware of the emotional weight of this moment. Noah eventually warmed up enough to show my father his dinosaur book, solemnly explaining the differences between carnivores and herbivores. My mother watched with undisguised longing, clearly wanting to hug him, but respecting the boundaries I had established. After an hour, as Noah played on the swings with Sophia, my mother turned to me with tears in her eyes. "He's wonderful, Gabriella. You've done an amazing job with him." "Yes, I have." I agreed, neither hostile nor particularly warm, despite everything. The meeting ended with tentative plans for another visit, this one including lunch at a restaurant Noah chose. As we walked to our separate cars, my father hesitated before asking, "Would it be possible sometime to see where you live, to understand your life better?" The request surprised me. Their interest in our home felt both intrusive and like a genuine attempt to know us. After consideration, I agreed to a brief visit the following month, setting clear time boundaries and expectations. Preparing for this home visit provoked unexpected anxiety. I found myself obsessively cleaning our already tidy condo, rearranging artwork, and second-guessing decor choices. Dr. Winters helped me recognize this behavior as seeking parental approval I no longer needed. "Your home reflects your success," she reminded me. "Their opinion of it doesn't change its value or yours." The night before their visit, insomnia kept me pacing our living room. What was I hoping for from this reunion validation apology? Some magical healing of 7 years of absence? Noah slept peacefully, untroubled by the complex emotions this visit represented for me. That morning I gave myself a stern pep talk in the bathroom mirror. "You built this life without them. Their approval is unnecessary. This is about Noah having family if they prove worthy of him. My parents arrived precisely at 11 bearing wrapped gifts for Noah and a houseplant for me. Their expressions as they entered our building's marble lobby told me everything. They had expected something less. Something that would confirm their decision to cast me out had indeed ruined me. "You live here?" my mother asked, taking in the doorman, greeting me by name. The elegant common areas, the security system requiring key fobs for elevator access. "For about 6 months now," I replied, leading them to the 12th floor. Our condo with its open floor plan and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city park clearly surprised them further. Noah's artwork hung in custom frames alongside professional photography. My home office featured a design station with dual monitors and industry-standard equipment. The furnishings, while not extravagant, were carefully chosen quality pieces. "Your place is beautiful," my mother said, genuine admiration in her voice. "Thank you. Noah, would you like to show your grandparents your room?" Noah proudly led them down the hallway, explaining his dinosaur collection and space-themed bedding. His natural ease as host revealed our comfortable life together, one built on stability and routine rather than the chaos they might have imagined. My father paused in front of my office, noticing the framed design awards on the wall. "These are all yours?" he asked, studying each certificate. "Yes. The American Advertising Federation one was from last year for a rebranding campaign." He nodded slowly, a different kind of understanding dawning in his expression. The most revealing moment came when my mother discovered the gallery wall of Noah's photos. Each frame contained a milestone newborn hospital bracelet, first steps preschool graduation, first lost tooth. The visual timeline of all they had missed overwhelmed her, and she turned away, shoulders shaking with silent sobs. We settled in the living room, Noah showing them his school project about dinosaurs. The conversation eventually turned to the years of separation inevitable, despite my attempt to keep things light for Noah's sake. "We thought we were doing the right thing," my father began, his typical certainty noticeably absent, "pushing you to make what we considered better choices. By abandoning your pregnant daughter," the words escaped before I could temper them. "We were wrong," my mother interjected, surprising me with her directness. "We were concerned about appearances, about what our friends would think. It seems so shameful now." "It was shameful then," I replied quietly. "I needed my parents. Noah needed grandparents." My father cleared his throat, clearly uncomfortable with emotional conversations. "We can't change the past, but perhaps moving forward." "Moving forward requires acknowledgement of what happened," I stated firmly. "Not just mistakes were made, but understanding the impact of those choices." I spent Noah's first Christmas in a basement apartment, choosing between medicine and heat. I worked until the day I delivered him and went back 2 weeks later because there was no other option. Noah, sensing tension, looked up from his toys. "Are you mad, Mom?" "Not mad, buddy. Just having a grown-up conversation about important things." He nodded solemnly before pulling a folded paper from his pocket. "I made this in art class. It's our family." The crayon drawing showed Noah and me holding hands in front of our building. Off to the side, smaller figures labeled Grandma, Grandpa, and Aunt Sophia stood near a car. The physical separation in the drawing perfectly captured our current reality. My father took the drawing with uncharacteristically unsteady hands. When he looked up, I was shocked to see tears in his eyes. In 30 years, I had never seen my father cry. "Thank you, Noah," he said, voice rough with emotion. "May I keep this?" Noah nodded, pleased with his grandfather's reaction. My mother reached for my hand, which I allowed after a moment's hesitation. We were so caught up in our expectations that we couldn't see what was actually important, she admitted. By the time we realized our mistake, we didn't know how to fix it. Pride and shame kept us silent. 7 years is a long silence, I responded. Too long, she agreed. We don't expect immediate forgiveness. We just want a chance to know our grandson and to rebuild some relationship with you, whatever that might look like. The conversation that followed set preliminary boundaries for moving forward. I made it clear that my parenting decisions were not open for criticism or suggestions. Any relationship with Noah would develop gradually respecting his comfort level. Most importantly, they needed to demonstrate consistency rather than expecting immediate family reunion dynamics. We would also need family therapy before regular visits become established, I explained. This isn't just about happy reunions. There's significant repair work needed. My father, typically resistant to anything therapy-related, nodded in agreement. Whatever it takes. Noah, with a child's intuitive understanding of emotional undercurrents, approached my father with a dinosaur book. "Wanna read with me, Grandpa?" The simple question contained possibilities that visibly moved my father. He nodded, patting the sofa beside him. As Noah settled next to him, beginning an earnest explanation of pterodactyls, I witnessed the first tentative bridge across 7 years of absence. Before they left, I gave them homework, write letters, explaining their perspective on what happened, acknowledging the impact of their choices, and expressing what relationship they hoped to build moving forward. Not for me to critique, I explained. For you to clarify your own understanding and intentions. After they departed, Noah and I sat on our balcony with ice cream discussing his impressions. "Grandpa knows a lot about dinosaur bones," he reported. "He fixes people's bones at his job." "What did you think about meeting them?" I asked carefully. He considered this spoon halfway to his mouth. "They seemed sad and happy at the same time. Grandma kept looking at your pictures a lot." "They missed a lot of time with us," I explained. "They feel sad about that now." "Can they come back sometimes? If they're nice?" "We'll see," I answered honestly. "We're taking small steps." In the weeks that followed, communication continued through calls, emails, and letters. Their written reflections revealed deeper understanding than I had expected. Particularly my father's acknowledgement of his rigid expectations and inability to adapt when life didn't follow his prescribed path. Our first family therapy session proved predictably difficult. The therapist, Dr. Michaels, skillfully navigated unspoken resentments and defensive responses. My mother cried through most of the session, while my father struggled to express emotions without clinical detachment. "Recovery from estrangement isn't linear," Dr. Michaels explained. "There will be progress and setbacks. The goal isn't perfect resolution, but healthier patterns moving forward." This became our mantra through subsequent months of rebuilding tentative connections. Some visits ended in tension, old patterns momentarily resurfacing. Others brought genuine moments of connection, particularly between Noah and his grandparents. The most powerful lesson emerged: gradually family could be both chosen and biological. The support network I had built during our years alone remained essential, not replaced by reconciliation, but complemented by it. Aria and Lily attended Noah's 8th birthday alongside my parents and Sophia, representing the full spectrum of people who loved him. Forgiveness, I discovered, wasn't a single moment of absolution, but an ongoing process benefiting me more than them. Releasing the anger I had carried for years created space for new relationship dynamics, though trust rebuilt far more slowly than it had been broken. For Noah, these expanded connections provided something I couldn't give alone: a sense of extended family and history. Watching him learn about his grandfather's medical career, or his grandmother's college tennis championship filled gaps in his identity I hadn't recognized until they were addressed. One year after our initial reunion, I invited my parents to Noah's school art showcase, where his landscape painting had won a district award. Watching them proudly introduce themselves as Noah's grandparents to other families represented a full circle moment neither of us had imagined possible during those early years of silence. That evening, after Noah was asleep, my father asked the question that had clearly troubled him for months. How did you do it? Build all this from nothing, I mean. One day at a time, I answered simply. With help from people who showed up when my family didn't. He nodded, accepting both the truth and the lingering sting it carried. The journey from abandonment to reconciliation taught me lessons about resilience I could never have learned in easier circumstances. I discovered strength I never knew I possessed, built a career my parents once dismissed as impractical, and raised a compassionate son despite having no parenting model to follow. Most importantly, I learned that others' rejection doesn't determine our worth. The opinions that once seemed so crucial, the approval I desperately sought, ultimately had no power over the life I created. The family that couldn't accept my pregnancy missed witnessing the beautiful person Noah became and the woman I grew into through loving him. If you're watching this and facing similar rejection from those who should support you, please know this. You can write a different story than the one others attempt to assign you. The path won't be easy, but with determination and the right support, you can build something beautiful from pain. Have you experienced family estrangement or reconciliation? Share your story in the comments below. If this resonated with you, please subscribe to hear more stories of resilience and healing. Give this video a like if you believe in second chances earned through genuine change rather than obligation. Thank you for witnessing my journey, and remember, the family that matters most is the one that shows up, whether connected by blood or by choice.